Okay, first I want to thank one of the followers who got me this off my wish list. I appreciate it so much. I love it. It's my favorite. I love this wig so much. Thank you. I'm humbled, so thank you. So I just want to say that really quick. Thank you so much. I love it. But I'm happy with Motor City Nerds, and if you guys think that I forgot about the Predator 2 review, my first one got messed up, then COVID hit my mom, then I got super sick, but now, I don't know. I quarantined anyway because it kept going back and forth on the test and it was weird, but I was super sick. Now our power's still out. It's been out for 3 days and they keep telling us it's going to come back and it just doesn't come back. So it's just been hurdle after hurdle, and then House of the Dragon came, but we're going to talk about this masterpiece of the 90s, Predator 2. Why Terminator 2? I also grew up on the end of the world was coming in 1997 apparently in every movie. And this isn't the end of the world, but it's like a dystopian future of crime and war going on, and the newscasters in this have some of the best lines in the whole movie. And I like how the news was like, I guess that was the point, is that like crime had gotten so bad that like cops are almost like celebrities and they're being treated like they're being followed by paparazzi and stuff, but they have some of the best lines in this whole movie. This movie is nuts. I remember being a kid and being like, Terminator 2, everybody gets blown away into dust. This, like, crime is running rampant, all crazy. All this crazy stuff is happening in 1997, and I like how in the beginning they, like, kind of trick you, and they start off with a shot of, like, a tropical, what could be the jungle, and then we pan out and it's LA, and I swear on everything, I always think it's New York, and so does everybody else, and then you're like, no, it's LA. At first I was like, did somebody trick Danny Glover onto set and say, like, it's just Lethal Weapon 95, just do that? I'm also not joking when I say I think he yells through the entire thing. He's yelling at everybody like it's like he thinks they are hard of hearing, but really he is. That's how he sounds. Like it just sounds. He's yelling the entire movie. I'm like, Danny Glover, chill. Oh, but this is the opening line of the movie. This is the first line that you hear. When we go, they're panning out on LA, like people, it's chaos. It's like a war zone. And we hear a newscaster go, oh, fuck this, get me out of here. And it only goes up from there. So it's a war zone. It's insane. Oh, there's like Colombian cartels like giving the news the middle finger. Like I said, this is like a televised thing. But I guess, like I said, that's like the point. You're going, oh, it's so bad that now it's just the real world is just so horrible, which the real world is horrible. I guess Predator 2 has some messages in it. The real world is horrible and nobody's paying attention to it. And in this, they make it almost like it's so bad that that's all people pay attention to. Like people all know who King Willie is. Like the way they said that was like, oh my god, it was like Elvis. And I was just like, so everybody just knows this major drug dealer's name? I just feel like you're not doing your job right if that's the case. But then when you think about it in the context of the movie, but that part I thought was weird. Danny Glover screaming at everybody, and I liked the camera thing, but like I said, the newscasters were stealing scenes. I like that they opened up the movie with us looking through the Predator's eyes. I love that we are doing this, and I've been trying to explain like the difference in each Yautja, because I love them, in each movie. Now, I did look some stuff up, and it said that there's I don't know if it's a comic or if it came before this. Like, the other stuff I know, I've read a lot of the Predator comics, but I'm like, they're called, like, the Lost Tribe, and they've kind of just been chilling there, and they're kind of like their own little crew. They're like, nomads, essentially, and they just happen to be in L.A. I just have been meaning to speak about each different Yautja, and then these ones are just like rogue nomads that have their own little crew. They're not like the average, we participate in the same traditions as the other ones, and they're not like the super predators from Predators, which I reviewed. But yeah, so the very beginning we start with the Predator's vision, and he's watching the cops raid the Colombian drug lord house. And while the cops are trying to get in to raid it, they get hit by the Predator. And the Predator's like sizing everybody up, and he picks Danny Glover, and because Danny Glover shoots somebody, something like along those lines, where like he sees that the police win this one. Oh my God, we'll get to that. But so the police win this one, so then he's like honing in on Danny Glover and watching him and his little crew, because he sees like, oh, you kind of seem like a threat. But then the people are all going, oh my God. And I will say this, there were points in this that were really scary, and they were building the tension well, but then it went on for way too long. Some of these shots went on for way too long, where it was like, move it, please move it. But yeah, by the time the cops get in, everybody's gutted and hanging from ceilings, and they're like, how did this happen? And it's all crazy. And Danny Glover's kind of like, meh. And then his partner goes into another room and looks up and thinks he sees something, and it's the Predator. And like I said, he's sizing them up now. And he's realizing who's a threat and who's not. At first, they're like, the Jamaicans did this. And we'll get to the Jamaican the depictions of these people is not well done, and it's like, it's nuts. But like I said, they do tie things together in this plot. Like, it's nuts, but they do tie it together. So after they go through the first raid in the beginning where they're like, oh, why are all these people skinned and massacred and messed up? The news is outside, and this is when we get this line. We're outmanned. This is a telecaster yelling into a camera. We are outmanned, outgunned, and the cops are incompetent. And then my next note is, once again, this is nuts. And that's the thing, too. Danny Glover is trying so hard. Danny Glover is trying his hardest, but he's screaming. I'm like, why are you screaming, Danny Glover? Sometimes, yeah. But what? I truly don't think they told him what movie he was in until halfway through. I really don't. Like, watch the first 25 minutes of this, and you're going to be like, I think somebody just told him to show up for Lethal Weapon, whatever, and that's what he's doing. I thought the use of the original score was a little much. I thought they kind of, like, overused it. But sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. I have that throughout my notes, where I'm like, oh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. My next note is, what the fuck did I just watch? And that was when I still don't know what happened. I replayed it twice. Danny Glover does some type of move in a car while shooting a gun. And then the doors off. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It says Danny Glover spins car, ? Oh, and then when he comes around and yells, hey, assholes, and just lights them up with the shotgun, which comes back around when he fights with the Predator. But, Jesus. Straight unloading. You know. And it was a lot. Oh, did I totally forget to mention that before the raid by the cops, the Colombians are just picking up jars of cocaine and snorting the shit out of them and going and getting hyped up. I'm like, this is the craziest, most 90s thing. This came out in 1990, and it is like the most 90s thing I've ever watched in my life. Because this part made me laugh. They break into the wrong apartment at first. That's why the Colombians get tipped off that they're getting raided. And it's just some ladies like in the corner cowering. And Danny Glover has the audacity to go, shh, shh. And I'm like, Danny, you have been screaming since you showed up on screen. I know I continue to call him just Danny Glover. His name's Mike. And then why did you make his little partner named Danny? That really makes things hard. So his little partner, Danny Glover's little partner, Danny, yeah, he starts getting targeted by the Predator. He keeps telling Danny Glover, this isn't good, this isn't right, something's wrong here, this isn't just the Jamaicans. Oh, this is where shit gets crazy. Oh my God, when the feds showed up? Okay, so the feds show up. And like I said, there's cameras everywhere. That's like a huge point in this movie. There are cameras everywhere, filming, paparazzi, and Danny Glover is just straight manhandling, obviously a government agent that he knows, in front of all of them and allowing them to capture all of that on film. He's just like gripping this man up and fighting with him. And this was here's a great line from him. He says, he was saying, well, like, you're kissing ass and doing this. We're down here risking our lives. And then he says, I don't roll over for anybody. And he's screaming in this man's face. And he says, especially the feds. And I was like, damn, Danny Glover, okay. We got Bill Paxton showing up. Rest in peace. So we're finding out that the feds are coming in. We have Bill Paxton showing up to join the crew. So Danny Glover's got his own little crew, but then the feds are like, sorry to stomp in on your jurisdiction. And then Danny Glover and his crew start to figure out something's up here. But, then this happened. And I can't believe I forgot this. Fucking Gary Busey shows up. Gary Busey walks through the door, and I was like, oh my God, Gary Busey. Do you want to know what I totally forgot about until the other day? Do you guys remember that? I don't know if it was scripted or like semi-scripted. Do you remember that Gary Busey show on Comedy Central? Like in like 2000 or 2001? It was it was weird and lawless, and I don't know who approved that, but you know what I'm talking about. The Gary Busey show. We have Gary Busey showing up. He's the big government guy. They start to put together, oh, they didn't take money, they didn't take drugs. That's weird. It doesn't seem... It, and then Danny Glover says, oh, that means there's somebody new in town, thinking it's a new organized crime thing, but really, it's the Predator. I will say this, I like the use of the gadgets by the Predator in this. Lots of net gun usage. I liked that. Yeah, King Willie, right? Yeah, he's going to meet up with King Willie, the leader of the Jamaican crime group. And I wanted to look this up because I was like, because that's why they were like, it might be the Jamaicans because they practice voodoo and they do this voodoo stuff. So at first they think the mutilations are kind of normal, but then once they start seeing them strung up and everything, they're like, this is not the same. But I wanted to look it up and I was like, I'm sure there's a derivative of something similar because of the area it's in, but I don't think Jamaicans practice voodoo. And so I looked that up and they don't, but they do have, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, obia. I don't want to say voodoo, but it's like a spiritual thing with similar similar attributes to it. So I'm like, okay, but you're really hyping up. I guess more people would know what voodoo is, but I was just like, I'm going to look that up just because I want to know. Was that a thing? That's what makes them not think it's the Predator at first. They're like, oh, it's they do some weird shit, and then they're like, oh wait, no, this is not what they do. So while Danny Glover goes to talk to King Willie, Danny, his little partner, who he told not to be a hero, that was never acting like a hero to begin with, so I don't know why he said that. But anyway, I guess just to make him seem like he's not a coward or something, I don't know. But he goes back to where the Predator killed a bunch of people, and the Predator ends up snatching him up. And I'm pretty sure I have wrote down he took his charm bracelet. Yeah, I put he lost his charm bracelet. I will say that part, but even parts of that were getting dragged out. But that part was genuinely creepy. When not Danny Glover, when his partner was creeping around where the Predator had massacred everybody, that genuinely was creepy. And then there was like a jump scare with some birds. But then literally, I thought like the Predator was going to be hiding somewhere else. No, the birds fly out and then he's like 5 feet away and he just chucks his spear right at him. And at first he misses. At first he totally misses. And you're like, oh, Danny, maybe you'll get out of this, knowing Danny's not going to get out of this. But I thought this was really cool, was when he's about to fall off the ledge, so he throws his hands up, and then the Predator's arm comes, the cloaking device goes off, and he's holding onto the Predator's arm. He's like, ah! Like, I genuinely was like, whoa. And it was really cool. I liked that. That looked really good. You definitely can tell that the people who did the creature design and the special effects people really wanted to show off in this. Like, Danny gets snatched up, the Predator takes his charm bracelet and ends up leaving it somewhere else for Danny Glover to find, and then he sends him into a crazy spinning around rage that was the funniest part of the entire movie. I was dying of laughter. Danny Glover just like, and I don't know why they did this with the camera shots, like they kept like changing it, but he was just spinning around in a graveyard over and over again. It was... It's right after the Predator sees that kid and he says, like, you want some candy? And I thought that was genuinely funny. I laughed. Oh, my God. Okay, so then we find out some backstory on... The news starts running out... Well, Gary Busey and the feds are running a smear campaign and telling the news to say bad stuff about Danny Glover so that he'll look bad and incompetent. Because the feds really just want... They know about the Predator. They're trying to get him to study and pull an ET and poke and prod him. So they want Danny Glover to stop snooping around. And they end up saying, like, they're talking about Danny Glover and his past record, and it's like violent crimes, OCD behavior, history of excessive physical force during arrests. And I'm like, oh my God, this is... So they're running this whole smear campaign against Danny Glover, and Danny Glover's getting pissed. Oh, yeah, and then he attacks the feds in the hallway. He, like, straight up runs up to Gary, like, in a federal building, just, like, runs up to Gary Busey and pins him, and, like, in front of everybody. I'm like, Danny Glover, you are just... What are you doing? They're running a smear campaign against you, and now you're choking somebody up in the hallway. What are you doing? And this was that weird time of the 90s where, like, especially if you watch, like, Sailor Moon, and they start talking about, like, computers and the internet and stuff. This is that time that we're in, where it's, like, we know it's kind of a thing, so we'll use it in our movies, but we really don't know how it works. So when Bill Paxton's like, I put sensors all over the city with this and that, and their radar, but the feds have special equipment that can wipe it out. I'm like, it's just so funny because they're not wrong with some of the stuff they're saying, but then it's like it's hilarious listening to them talk about what's going to be in the future. And they got really into doing that in the 90s. They were super into talking about using technology before it really existed. Movies just took their own spin on everything back at this time. Something that I just personally think is funny. Like, whenever I hear it, because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this time. When Danny Glover talks to the autopsy lady, do you think that you would want to hear that your colleague was, quote, boned like a fish? Thanks, lady. That was my friend and my coworker. Jesus. And this lady does science all quick. She's like, oh, let me see this alien piece you found, and throws it under a microscope. She's like, it's not on the periodic table. You're telling me this lady just could throw a piece of metal under a microscope and just be like, I actually just discovered technology from another planet, and I'm going to act like it's just not a big deal. And I'm going to let you keep it, Danny Glover. What? This Predator is very show-offy. He is extremely show-offy. He's like Oberyn Martell out here. He's definitely hot dogging it, but my mom always said that when we played basketball. She's like, do you want to know that will have you lose? Like, don't go out there and act like a hot dog and think that you're gonna be doing something, because it's going to your head. He underestimated. He lost to Danny Glover. Not that Danny Glover's anything to sneeze at. I'm just saying, like, he's like a sweaty cop who's pissed off. That happens all the time. After the first partner gets killed, Danny Glover wasn't with him because he was talking to King Willie. So he goes to talk to this big-time drug dealer, King Willie, and he gets in the car and they go to talk about the voodoo, and King Willie all of a sudden is like a wise shaman that he goes to meet and gets like wise words from him and advice. It's very strange how they changed that up. It's like, no, you still could have made him like down to earth and more relatable, but they straight up have him like shake the bones and see the future and I know what's coming. And what is happening, King Willie? I like the character, he was cool, but I'm like, Danny Glover, aren't you here to like say? And Danny Glover's just like, yes, wise man. And I'm like, this is so strange. This is so odd. And that was a really cool shot when he lands and you don't see him and you just see the puddle behind King Willie splash. And then we cut to him walking away with King Willie's head. And I will say this, the sound effects, like design, were rough sometimes, like in a good way. Like when he was cracking skulls open and cleaning them, I was like, oh my God, I think that's really what it would sound like. Oh my God, it was grotesque in a good way. There was a few times when that happened, though, where I was like, whoa, sound effects grossing me out, whoa, and a little too real for me. And that happened a couple times in this, so whoever did that, they did a really good job. But yeah, King Willie gets decapitated, and then, like I said, there's a crowd outside, like, King Willie's oh my God, and everybody knows it, and then they're like, King Willie, oh my God, what's their posse called? I have a runner of the Jamaican voodoo posse guys or something. I'm like, oh my God, it was hilarious. And I did like the kid at the cemetery scene. I thought that was funny. And what did he say? He said something where I was like, oh my God, what did that kid just say? He jumps out of the car and says, take that, you scum-sucking dog. What kind of insult is that? The kid's like 8 or something. Scum-sucking dog. And I just said, oh, this kind of irritated me. I said, oh my God, really, the army music? So they like were trying to just rip off the scene that I was talking about in my Predator 1987 review, where Mac is talking about him and Blaine being so tight and how they got through everything together and he doesn't know what he's going to do without him, and it's really sad. And they tried to do this with Danny Glover and the partner that we don't really care about who got killed, but it doesn't really work. But then that's when Danny Glover runs into the Predator and starts spinning around in the cemetery like a madman, and I was like, oh my God, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And yeah, when the Predator goes for Leona and Bill Paxton, he only kills Bill Paxton because when he goes to kill Leona, he realizes she's pregnant, which I thought that was kind of dumb. Like, not dumb, like, cool, whatever, that makes sense too. Like I said, they have a code. They do have a code. They're like, we don't just do that. Like, with the kid, they're not going to do that. Like, and like I said, that's part of the reason we like the Predator. It's thinking. It has a reason for what it does. But, yeah, he lets her go because of that. I thought at first, I totally forgot about the pregnancy thing. I thought at first, her heart was rapidly beating because she was scared, and so he's like, you talk big and you hang out with them, but you're not really a worthy opponent. But then they were like, oh no, you're pregnant. And I'm like, I don't know if the Predator would respect that, but I mean, if it was like a lady holding her baby, I think he would, but whatever. So she makes it out, and Bill Paxton bites it. And now the Bill Paxton fight is strange to me, and the Predator is once again showing off, and it's great. But he's really using that spear a lot, and he's like throwing people around by it. He's like Poseidon out there, and it's pretty sweet. Some of that's really cool. But the Bill Paxton one, like, I know the golf ball was like a callback, but I was like, why would you even do that? Why would just stop? And then he's wielding a machete, and things get nuts. But I will say, it is really creepy when it gets dark and the Predator's coming and they start rushing everybody through the train and then the other people don't know what's going on. Like, that's a genuinely creepy, very cool, well done scene that I liked. And I didn't mind Bill Paxton's death. I was just like, what are you doing at the end of this? I have, oh my God, this is a massacre. It was a straight massacre on that train. It was rough. That was super, super violent. Again, some of these things are really taking way too long. Oh, this is where things get nuts. Danny Glover shows up, goes into the subway area, goes running down the subway train hallway, comes around the corner, and we hear the little purring, right? We hear the purring from the Predator. And then we come around the corner, and this was one of the most horrifying practical effects I've seen. And I'm talking about new, old. It's just been a minute since I watched Predator 2. Probably unedited. Last time I watched it was on like TNT or something, so this probably isn't on there when this happens. When he straight... They show him straight pull the skull and the spinal cord out, but like from far away, so there's no blood, and it's gruesome, and the sound it's grotesque. And then the Predator runs off with his trophy, and Danny Glover's like, ah! And I'm like, I don't know. I guess that's why you're a worthy adversary, Danny Glover, because you're running right towards that. But look that scene up, or just go, if you have Hulu, it's on Hulu. Go watch that scene of just Danny Glover coming around the corner and seeing that spinal cord and head get ripped out. I was like, geez, oh my God, I have not seen anything that rough in a long time, and then how practical. Just go look it up. So Predator's dipping out. He's got his prize. He's running. He's smashing cars. He's climbing up buildings, and that's when Danny Glover looks up and sees like, oh, I was right. There is something off about this. Whatever. That's when the government steps in, and then the movie just goes, and it's like, okay, I feel like this is going very, very fast, and kind of shoehorned in. Like, the government's always been here, but all of a sudden it's like, no, here we go. It's off to the races. I was like, is this necessary? So Predator's running. Danny Glover hops in a car. He's chasing the Predator while driving and trying to see him jump on rooftops. I don't know how that logic works, but either way, he pulls up all crazy in a parking lot. I don't know if this was necessary, but the feds speed up and smash into him as hard as they can and T-bone the shit out of Danny Glover and then hop out and they're like, come with us. No, we're going to show you our secret base with all our secret plans and tell you all about this alien. But we couldn't just detain you. There's 4 of us and we're all like government special black ops and you're telling me you can't stop an LAPD officer? What do you mean here? And so I'm like, did you really need to smash into his car? So yeah, they snatch him up, they take him to their bunker and they're like, see, we have it set like this and he can only see in infrared. And we learned that Gary Busey knows all about what happened with Arnold Schwarzenegger back in 1987. And he's like, we want to freeze it and store it and keep it. We have this plan. We got special suits. So then they go in and they are getting picked off one by one by this show-offy Predator. Now, I will say the Predator had some really cool scenes, especially when the government first comes in their funny suits and, like, he's crouching and looking. I liked that. And when they're like, no, he's turning around, he's doing this. He's circling you. And then Danny Glover realizes, oh, they're in a trap. I know what's happening. And, yeah, the Predator's just showing off at some points. And he takes everybody out, all types of crazy. And then it gets down to him and Gary Busey. So Crazy Busey versus the Predator. That's when Danny Glover starts screaming at the nerds. At the computers, of course. They're the nerds who, if you even knew what a keyboard was back then, you were a nerd. And it was 1990. And he's like, let me in. They're like, no. And he's like, no, I'm going in. So Danny Glover's like, oh, I'm going in all alone. After the Predator just took out all these guys except for Gary Busey. And Gary Busey's like, he's just being Gary Busey. There's a really cool shot, though, of, like, it starts behind the Predator and comes around him while his laser's out, and it's a really cool shot with the fog and everything. It was, I don't know, it was really cool. And then Danny Glover saves Gary Busey for a moment, because 5 minutes later, he throws the disc, and it goes through several full cows that are hanging. It looks like meat hanging, like the Rocky freezer, like just slabs of beef, and it goes through a bunch of those and then straight through Gary Busey after Danny Glover ran in here to save your asses. For what? To have you just get murked? After you ran a smear campaign against me and tried to ruin my career, and after you have been treating me like shit this entire time, and Danny Glover still came in to save your ass, Gary Busey. You do have a little bit of it feels like laser tag. There's like a laser tag moment between the Predator and Danny Glover, and it's just kind of funny to me because it looks like kids playing laser tag, and I'm like, why is the Predator doing this and why is Danny Glover doing that? It's just kind of funny, and Danny Glover ends up getting a hold of some of the Predator's technology. Now, we have the run through the city at first and climbing up stuff, and the Predator's trying to book it because Danny Glover, once again, unloads on him the same way he unloaded on those human beings in the beginning of the movie and called them assholes and lit them up like it was nothing. Like he did this every day at work. He lights the Predator up, and the Predator, instead of blowing himself up, goes to run. And now that would be kind of against the code, but like I said, this group of Predators is their own like nomad tribe, so they don't follow the exact same traditions, and this is like a rarity. But yeah, he's booking it back to his ship. He's trying to get there before Danny Glover can really off him. And Danny Glover, they don't even have any security around this. He just runs right up in their ship. Pretty much the only thing that happens in between them in the freezer, killing Gary Busey, and to the Predator ship is the scene with the old couple where the Predator's healing himself in the bathroom. And I do think that's genuinely funny. But what's even funnier is Danny Glover scaling a water main drain pipe over to it, like 80 million feet in the air. I'm like, Jesus, what is going on here? We have the old couple apartment, and I think that's genuinely funny, and they don't know the Predator's in their bathroom healing himself, and then he comes running out, and what does she say to Danny Glover? He's like, don't be scared, I'm a cop, and she goes, I don't think he gives a shit, and that's genuinely funny too. Then we get to the Predator ship, and nothing really happens, except for Danny Glover finding all the skull trophies, and then he stabs the Predator with the Predator's own disc. There's no real, like, oh, there's kind of like a sword fight that takes place that was a little out of nowhere. Like, the Predator's just using his wristy knives, and Danny Glover is just using a disc he's never even seen before because it's not from this planet. But yeah, then he stabs him in the chest. There's no, I don't know. But then again, I guess the Predator was wounded from you unloading a shotgun into his chest like you do on a daily basis at your job. So Danny Glover takes the Predator down. He's like, what the hell is this? Where am I? What's going on? And I will say this, I love the Predator ship. Sick. And this scene, and I did read that this costs the most in the whole movie, and that's what I mean. Like, the one thing that irked me about the Predator running around, not the actor, he did great, but, like, the contacts they use, like, you could, like I said, there's so many close-ups on this Predator's face when he takes his mask off. You can tell they were like, look at how much better we got. And it is. It looks amazing. But then there's a shot where they get real close to the Predator's eyes, and I'm like, he kind of looks like a doofus if you do that. I don't know. There was something about it. But other than that, it was awesome. But like I said, you could tell the makeup people were like, look at how great this is. And then I read somewhere that the scene where all the other Predators show up was the most expensive, and that some of those designs were from the original movie. So they've been wanting to do those designs. So like I said, I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying, like, you can tell, and it's really cool. But we get all the other Predators that show up, and the one with the grayish dreads, so we know that he's really old. And I think his name is Grayback. And they're, like I said, this is a story. But yeah, Danny Glover thinks he's screwed, and then they all pick up the body and they take it. You lost. But here's the one thing that I thought was strange. You guys were just going to let Danny Glover stay on the ship? Nobody's going to kick him off? You guys just let him hang out. You guys were going to have to take off with him there. That's kind of strange to me. But in the comics, there are instances of them accepting humans, but I just think I was like, you guys just dipped out. Okay. And then Danny Glover jumps out, ends up covered in dust and dirt, looking at a helicopter, and it's the end of the first movie again. And I'm like, God, did you have to just hit it? I didn't realize how many things hit straight on the head as the original in this, where I'm like, dear God. But yeah, no, this is definitely a super show-offy Predator, that's for sure. The old leader of the Predator group, and their helmets are so cool, they're so sick, giving Danny Glover the pistol, or the revolver, whatever that is. What is it when you can shoot once, and then it takes you 9 minutes to reload? The gun from the pirate. It's from a pirate, right? Raphael Andolini, and it's from 1715. I don't know where it cut out, and like I said, I have no power. I have like 3% on this. Oh my God, this is so bad. I gotta find somewhere to charge it. Where do we leave off? Prey? So the gun that she gets in Prey is here. So how did those connect? And I'm so glad that Prey has. This isn't. No, Predator 2 isn't good, but it's a 90s staple, is what it is. But Prey is a good film, so I'm glad to see Predator come back to a good film, is what I'm trying to say. But you don't even have to connect them, and the fans will be happy. But if you do, you better do it right, because I'm excited to see it. My tablet just died while I was recording, but yeah, Predator 2 is a 90s masterpiece. Is this a great film? No. Is it worth a watch if you haven't watched in a while? Yes. When we get to the end of the movie, it's just copying the first one beat for beat, but this has some gem moments in it that you should check out. And welcome to the new subscribers. I'm going to be doing another House of the Dragon video. I am sweating. The power is still out. It's been 3 days. We're going on day 3, and they said it would be back 2 days ago. Then they said last night, then they said today, and it's still not back. So it's like, everything is messed up. I'm sweating my nads off. Yeah. And all the Predator movies are on Hulu, so check it out. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. I'm on OF, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on all the stuff. Check it out, check out my other videos. I would say I'm streaming a game right now, but I'm not because the power's out. Yeah. Welcome to the Penguin Gang if you're new. And it's just been I've had a weird 2022. It's insane. But not as insane as Predator 2. Check that out. Man, this was way crazier than I remember it being. That's all I'm going to say. And I've watched Predator a lot. I love Predator. Predator, 1987 is one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. I've watched Predator 2 whenever it's on, but like I said, I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched it unedited and not like on TNT or something. And let me tell you, I was delightfully surprised. I was absolutely delighted. And I want to know, why did everybody want the end of the world to happen in 1997? James Cameron, I don't know what was going on there. What was up with 97? These guys are scaring the shit out of us little kids. Also, I'm sweating. I'm going to go jump in the pool.